Is there a way to quantify just how big a threat it is to the fundamentals of democracy?
I mean, if you look at the fact that Congress has an approval rating in the teens, yet the re-elect rate is something like 90%, that kind of starts to give you a bit of the picture of how disenfranchised we are by the redistricting process.
Well, and again, in the state of California, you have this massive initiative inflation. That is a direct response to the lack of representative government. When representative government isn't working, the people step in. Now, people could say, well, that's not a bad thing. You've got more direct democracy, you have more people having a say in things. But it's reached a point in California where only 25% of the budget is under the control of the people, of the politicians we elect in Sacramento. So you have constant budget messes. You cannot run the 8th largest economy of the world when you don't have control over your
Seems
budget.
like there's so many erosions in our democracy here. At what point can you stop calling it a democracy?
Yeah, I mean, it begs the question for sure, but all of these things are related to each other. The legislatures and the Congress people are insulated from us because of the way they draw the lines. And so if they're insulated, it makes them feel free to do all sorts of different kinds of activities. A lot of people ask me, why didn't you make a movie about campaign finance reform? And I could have done that too, and might still do that in the future. But I think they're all part and parcel of the same thing. You need to start somewhere. And I think redistricting, in some ways, it's more tangible because it affects people actually where they live. It's about their communities and how their communities are organized into representative government. And so we can get people reconnected with government on the level of the communities where they live, then I think you can start to access all different kinds of problems. The problems of problems of the media, the problems of campaign finance reform, things like that. For me, I think redistricting is kind of ground zero to sort of revitalizing the democracy as a whole.
I think that the big issue is creating that nexus between gerrymandering and kind of the ills that we face in our country right now. Most Americans will never know whether they've been gerrymandered out of a district, but they do know that the country's infrastructure is crumbling, the economy is cratered, and government is broken. And it turns out that the arcane rules of redistricting impact all of this by determining who gets elected and who gets represented.
Arnold, how was it? Was Arnold very accessible? Did he come in, is it easy to get a hold of him?
He's as accessible as any, movie star turned governor can be. It was, we definitely followed him around on the campaign trail for a while, and his people were very open to us being there and documenting all that, And when they told us to come to Sacramento for our big sit-down interview, he came and he sat down for our interview. So I think we were lucky in that sense. But he was very accommodating.
But I think after the film actually came to fruition, he has been amongst the biggest supporters in promoting it. I mean, he was on the Tonight Show. They showed a clip of it. He came to the Washington, D.C. Premiere and created a huge media event there for us. So this is his issue. This is his critical reform issue. And so having a movie which is a medium that he understands very well, that was a nice coincidence.
All right. I can't imagine senators were dying to talk to you about it. Because it seems like it's a bipartisan malady.
Yeah, we tried to interview all sorts of people like Newt Gingrich and Nancy Pelosi. They didn't want to talk about this because this is a great piece of inside baseball for politicians. They don't want the public to know that this goes on every 10 years because then I think there'd be more impetus to change it.
Well, so then what is the solution? Then how is it done properly? Like you mentioned other Western European democracies where they don't have this issue. They do redistricting, but they don't have this.
Here's the red line. Here's the red line. There is no silver bullet on how to do this, but every other Western democracy in the world does not allow politicians to directly draw their district lines. They don't allow that inherent conflict of interest. We don't believe that you will ever take the politics out of redistricting, but you can take the politicians out. And so the goal really is to have that minimum standard throughout the United States.
Thanks so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Very nice work.